So cardio, heart, vascular, blood vessels, pharmacology, the drugs that can be used in different circumstances. So let's jump across to the first class. These are the antihypertensive or the blood pressure medications. Remember the starting point, blood pressure equals cardiac output times peripheral vascular resistance. What does this mean? Cardiac output is the amount of blood that comes out of the heart per minute. Peripheral vascular resistance is the resistance, the vessels, that 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels, the resistance that pushes back on the heart. So those together will give us blood pressure. So with hypertension, we're talking high blood pressure. So what medications can we be given to decrease blood pressure? The way to remember this are your A, B, C, Ds. All right, let's start with A. The first A are your ACE inhibitors. So if we remember ACE inhibitors or ACE is a converting enzyme. It converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. This is your RAS system. We've got a few videos on this, so if you're not sure, have a look at that. But the ACE inhibitors inhibits the enzyme ACE, stops the production of angiotensin 2. Specifically, angiotensin is a powerful vasoconstrictor, which means the blood vessels become smaller. Therefore, the peripheral vascular resistance would go up, but we're inhibiting it. So therefore, we decrease the resistance, we decrease the blood pressure. Another A could be what we call the ARBs, ARBs, or angiotensin 2 receptor blockers. So they work a little bit similar to the ACE inhibitors, but instead of inhibiting the enzyme, they actually just inhibit angiotensin 2 bind into the blood vessels. But the same outcome, decrease vascular resistance, decrease blood pressure. The other A is the alpha antagonist. Or alpha blockers, or alpha 1 blockers. So these receptors, these are what we call adrenergic receptors. They are on certain blood vessels, and when adrenaline binds to them, it causes vasoconstriction. This would be useful in situations like wanting to divert blood away from your skin, your gastrointestinal tract, or certain locations that you don't need it in a stress response. But if this is happening all the time, you're going to get high blood pressure. So what we can do is we can block the effect of adrenaline on these alpha 1 receptors. So we block that effect, therefore we block constriction and we get dilation, therefore resistance changes or resistance lessens, therefore blood pressure goes down. So that's the A's. B, we've got your beta blockers. Beta blockers, they affect the beta 1 receptor or block the beta 1 receptor, so therefore adrenaline doesn't bind to it well, therefore it decreases its effect on the heart. So specifically the speed of the heart and the force of the heart, decreasing cardiac output, decreasing blood pressure. Then we go to the C. This is the calcium channel blockers. So these could be calcium channels in the blood vessel, but also in the heart. Now remember, calcium is important for contraction. So if we block calcium going in, we decrease contraction. So if we do that in a blood vessels dilate, we decrease peripheral vascular resistance. Or if we do it in the heart, it decreases the speed, decreases cardiac output, decreases blood pressure. And then finally, we've got our diuretics. So the diuretics essentially get rid of fluid in the body. So decrease in fluid decreases blood volume, decreases blood return, decreases stroke volume, decreases cardiac output, decreases blood pressure. So that's our antihypertensives. We will do another video on this at a later date, but that's a quick overview. Now we move to the ischemic heart disease medication. So ischemic heart disease is where the heart itself runs out of blood. That usually happens by having blocked vessels, which are the coronary vessels. So blocking in vessels, which you can see here, which is through plaques, That would decrease blood flow to the muscle. The muscle runs out of oxygen and becomes painful, that's angina, or starts to die, that's a MI or a heart attack. So we want to restrict this, we want to remove this, we want to decrease the likelihood of this. So the way we can do this is two kind of methods. We can open the pipes up, so open the blood vessels, which are the pipes, or decrease heart activity. So open in the pipes, meaning we open the coronary vessels or open in the blood vessels, leaving the heart or coming into the heart. That will therefore decrease the kind of demand of the heart, therefore it doesn't need as much oxygen, therefore it won't have problems with ischemia. So open in the pipes, one good example is GTN. So glycerol trinitrate, this is a nitrate. What it does is probably three main things. It dilates the vessels coming into the heart, decreasing the preload, therefore decreasing the way that the heart or the forcefulness or the demand that the heart has. So therefore, if it doesn't need to work as hard, it doesn't need as much oxygen. It'll also decrease the output of the heart or the resistance out of the heart. So if you open those blood vessels, it's easier for the aorta to push the blood, therefore the heart doesn't have to work as hard, therefore it doesn't need as much oxygen, therefore it takes the strain, we don't get ischemia. The other thing it can do is dilate the coronaries, so more blood can get through past the plaque, and then more oxygen is delivered. So that's open in the pipes. Another thing we can do is, just like we saw with some of the blood pressure medications, we may use the calcium channel blockers. So specifically those for the blood vessels themselves rather than the heart. That could be also useful for working in opening the pipes, decreasing the workload of the heart. The other thing we can do is decrease the work of the heart itself. So we can use, like we saw up here, beta blockers. So beta blockers can be used, and slowing the heart rate down, therefore the heart doesn't work as hard, therefore it doesn't need as much oxygen, therefore it won't run out of oxygen and possibly lead to a heart attack. The other one would be a calcium channel blocker, but a heart-specific one. Calcium blocker. So that's the ischemic heart disease. Another thing we could do for the pipes is the cholesterol. So we can use medication to decrease blood cholesterol, specifically the LDLs or low density lipoproteins. They are a contributor to the plaques that we see in the vessels, specifically the coronaries. So the cholesterol medications usually would be the statins, but can also be the fibrates. Essentially what they're going to be doing is lowering the LDLs in the blood and increasing the HDLs, which lessen the risk of the plaques, therefore keeping the pipes open, specifically in the coronary vessel, reducing the risk of a heart attack. Then move into heart failure medication. So the problem with the heart failure, what is heart failure? Here's your heart, it works as a pump. We know that we've got a left side and a right side. The left side pumps blood out of the aorta to the whole body, delivering the whole body oxygenated blood, whilst the right side of the heart pushes blood to the pulmonary trunk to get oxygenated to the lungs. When the left side of the heart fails, it's not pushing enough blood out of the aorta to the body, so the body starts to run out of oxygenated blood. Your kidney will be impacted, but also you'll be fatigued. You'll kind of have exercise-induced fatigue. You won't have a lot of energy. But another thing that can happen is the left ventricle will start to congest. The blood will back up into the atria and then back up into the lungs, and we develop edema. Similarly, on the right side of the heart, we can also see congestion, but it goes back into the right atrium and then back into the body. And we see congestion back in the body, which would lead to edema, such as peripheral edema, like in your ankles. So what we can do for medication with heart failure is we can reduce the edema, so we can decrease fluid, or increase heart efficiency. So that's the kind of two broad categories of how these drugs would work. So to decrease fluid, we would use diuretics, which we saw in the antihypertensive. So diuretics like the loop diuretics, if the patient has issues with potassium, they might use, in conjunction with a loop diuretics, a potassium sparing diuretics. But this is essentially to get rid of fluid in the body, like furosemide, getting rid of fluid, decreasing the amount of fluid returning to the heart, therefore taking the strain off the heart. We could also use the ACE inhibitors here or the ARBs. They will not only reduce fluid to some degree, but they will also reduce the vascular resistance, therefore the heart can beat more effectively. Coming to the heart efficiency, how do we make the heart, because we know it's failing, how do we make it take the demand? So we slow the heart down, but we make it more efficient. Two groups of medications are digoxin. So digoxin works by blocking the pump, the sodium-potassium pump in the muscle cells. And what that will essentially do is allow more calcium to remain in the myocardium or the muscle cells. And we know if there's more calcium, there's a more powerful contraction. So it will slow the heart rate down, but each beat will be more efficient. That's through digoxin. And we can also use beta blockers as well. So the way that beta blockers would work is it would slow the heart rate down, therefore decreasing the demand or the metabolic activity, which gives the heart some support. But again, because we're slowing the heart has more time to fill with blood, and each beat will be allowing to get more stroke volume out. So again, we're making the heart more efficient. So that's heart failure. We can now come across to the antidysrhythmics. So these class of medications are also all around the activity, the electrical activity of the heart. The way that these can be broken down is in their classes. So we have class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. Class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. These work at all the different points along the cardiac cycle. Starting with class 1, these class of medications block the sodium channel within the ventricle. So that's going to impact the speed at which the ventricles depolarize. So blocking sodium might be useful in conditions where the ventriculars are beating too fast or out of sync. So this could be VT or VF as examples. Class 2 looks at the effect or blocking the effect of adrenaline on the node. So this is beta blockers, or these will be beta blockers. And this will be decreasing the effect that adrenaline would have on the nodes. So that would be the SA node and the AV node. So that would be slowing the conduction speed, which may be useful in conditions like supraventricular tachycardia. Moving to class 3 medications, these block the effect of potassium. So they're potassium blockers, but in the ventricles. So that's going to slow the repolarization speed within the ventricles. Again, this is going to be important for certain ventricular abnormalities. Again, it's probably similar to class 1, the VTs and the VFs. And then finally, the class 4, these would be blocking calcium, the effect of calcium movement in the heart. Again, probably more so at the nodal, and this is going to slow the conduction through the heart, which may be useful in conditions like atrial fibrillation. Again, we'll do another video on this, which will focus in much more detail. Finally, we'll finish off with clotting. So this is where in the blood itself, it's either causing platelets to aggregate, or the cascade is turned on, or we may already have an established clot that we want to break up. So the way you could think of clotting medications could be 1, antiplatelet, So this would be medication to prevent platelets aggregating, forming the first part of homeostasis, which is the platelet plug. So this would be medications like aspirin or clopidogrel. They would be useful in certain conditions like across here. We would use aspirin also with the ischemic heart disease because we don't want block-in, particularly in that plaque situation. So we could use aspirin in that situation. Or if that blood vessel was up in the brain, so for prevention of strokes. So aspirin can be an antiplatelet medication to prevent strokes and heart attack. Another drug that's similar to aspirin is clopidogrel. It just works in a slightly different mechanism, but it's also an antiplatelet medication. Then we go to medications that's based on coagulation. So this is the second part of homeostasis, sometimes known as secondary homeostasis. So this is anticoagulation. So the medications that would fit into this group would be heparin. So heparin is a medication that kind of blocks the effect of thrombin. Thrombin then goes on to activate fibrin, which is to kind of stabilize and make the platelet plug more solid. So heparin is a medication that is useful in blocking a number of steps, particularly with the activation of thrombin, but also clotting activated 10. So we've got heparin, then we've got warfarin. I'll write this in. Heparin. We've got warfarin. Warfarin is a medication that blocks the effect of vitamin K. So the vitamin K dependent clotting proteins, they will be inactivated. And so this is a number of different clotting proteins that ultimately won't allow coagulation to take place. And we've also got some medications which are called direct oral anticoagulants. These are a more newer form of medications, particularly superseding warfarin, because warfarin does have some side effects. So these medications are direct, so they usually bind or affect specifically either thrombin or clotting number 10. So that's the anticoagulants. The final one can be the fibrinolytics. Fibrinolytics, which basically means you've already got an established clot somewhere. So this could be in your lungs or your brain or in your heart, blood vessels. So there's already an established clot, but what these medications will do will break them up, bust them up. So these would be things like streptokinase or TPA. These medications kind of activate plasmin. Plasmin then goes around and then starts to break fibrin. Fibrin is only the end point of coagulation. So wherever there is established clots, these fibrinolytics will have an effect which can be used in early stages of clots that have probably broken off and gone to other regions like lung, brain, heart. So these are the main categories of the drugs that you're likely to encounter in the cardiovascular system, specifically with diseases. It's not exhaustive, so there's not going to be all of them, but these are going to be the most common categories you'll see. We'll come back to a lot of these, so particularly the hypertensives. We'll come back and go more extensive into how each one of these work, as we will with the ischemic heart diseases, heart failure medication, the dysrhythmics, and then multiple different videos in the antiplatelets, anticoagulants, and the fibrinolytics.
Hi everyone, Dr. Mike here. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. We've got hundreds of others just like this. If you want to contact us, please do so on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Dr. Mike Todorovic, at DrMikeTodorovic. Speak to you soon.